One of the elements of Scarlet Nexus that I immensely enjoyed through my playthrough is the boldness on the part of the developers to tackle some interesting subjects. What is connection? What happens in a world where everyone is willingly subservient to technology? What happens when a government controls the flow of information? What happens when you're told what you can and cannot do or even see? These are essential topics to discuss, and I really enjoyed seeing Bandai Namco Studios' take on these ideas and what a hyper-connected world might look like. They're able to do this through the lens of some very interesting story arcs that are also not often tackled well in video games. The writers set this up to happen through the eyes of compelling characters who are strikingly different from one another, yet all find themselves working in tandem towards a common goal. All of this is brought about through engaging combat, which is both familiar yet unique, asking you, the player, to manage tiny details to defeat every creature thrown your way. Welcome to the world of Scarlet Nexus, a place where everything is connected via the Psynet, a place where psychic abilities are cultivated from a young age, and a place where anyone who doesn't even have the tiniest hint of psionic prowess is consequently considered a dud. In Scarlet Nexus, you're invited to explore a futuristic world where many forms of brain powers not only impact day-to-day civilian life, but are also crucial for defending against terrible monsters called the Others. Suppose you're born with noticeable psychic abilities. In that case, you're immediately conscripted into the OSF, or the Others Suppression Force, a military arm of the government designed to train and deploy people of all ages against the ever-increasing threat of the Others. At the beginning of the game, you're given the choice to play as either Yuito Sumeragi or Kasane Randall, both powerful psychics who wield the power of psychokinesis. Both of them are just beginning their careers as full-fledged members of the OSF. No longer cadets, they'll be taking on others, both big and small, in what seems to be a never-ending war. The most critical choice that you'll make is at the very beginning of the game. Do you play as Yuito or Kasane? I chose Yuito and played his story to completion in a little over 30 hours. I maxed out all of my companions' bond levels and did many of the side quests. When I first started Yuito's storyline, one of my big questions was whether or not the ending would be different or if I would miss out on important things by not playing through both perspectives simultaneously. The answer to that question is complicated, and I want to give you the information you're seeking without spoiling anything. As I mentioned before, your goal as a member of the OSF is to combat the Others. These are terrible and extraordinary creatures formed when mysterious particles from space interact with living creatures, both human and animal. As either Kasane or Yuito, you experience the same story arc, with each of the personal details being a little bit different depending on who you choose. At the end of the day, you end at the same goal. While both Yuito and Kasane interact at multiple points in the story early on, there are several vital plot progression points for either character and their platoon that you don't get to experience fully depending on who you choose. Instead, later on, you have it explained to you via story exposition to fill in the gaps. It's honestly a natural way to experience a story, and it did make me want to replay Kasane's perspective to see exactly what happened with all the details, even though I already knew more or less what was going on. Like any interaction you would have with someone else, second-hand information is a normal part of conversations. It is just a little bit different for a video game. Now, don't get me wrong. No matter who you choose, you will have a very complete experience. You have the opportunity to interact with all of the party members, but it will be from the perspective of either Yuito or Kasane. So just pick whoever seems most interesting to you and enjoy the game. Yuito fights with a sword, focusing on 1-versus-1 melee combat, where Kasane fights with daggers that float around her using psychokinesis. She swings them around her in wide arcs and can hit multiple enemies simultaneously. However, that's where the differences in fighting styles end and the fun truly begins. Except for a few enemies, each of the others you fight comes with a traditional hit point bar, but also comes with a crush gauge with a different rate of depletion. The moment the crush gauge bar depletes, you can hit the left trigger. A fancy cutscene will happen, and the first time you crush a particular enemy, you will see Yuito or Kasane swing them around, smash them, and do all of these crazy fun animations. And then in a poof of broken light particles, they're gone. When you first start the game, you'll find more often than not their HP will deplete first, not allowing you to trigger the Brain Crush animation. What are the benefits of activating Brain Crush, you ask? Well, the big one is that enemies will drop rare items that you can exchange in the shops for better weapons, gear, and also the gifts for your party members. It's the fastest way to deal with enemies that can, at times, be a little bit overwhelming. Speaking of the shops, Scarlet Nexus does something very interesting that I want to address right here. Nearly every corner, after every major encounter, you have a place to save and buy new items. A lot of players will think, well, because there's a save point around every corner, that makes the game far too easy. Because there's a shop around every corner, that makes the game far too easy. But what I really think they're trying to do is respect the player's time. That is one of the interesting things about Scarlet Nexus, is that everything is broken up into small episodes, small chunks where you can do a little bit of story, do a little bit of combat, and then stop, save, side quests, and then begin the next major part of story exposition. I think that this is a really unique take on a JRPG, and I really liked what they did there. Oftentimes I only have maybe 15 or 20 minutes in the afternoon. I want to take a quick break. I want to play a game for a little bit. And Scarlet Nexus lets me progress a little bit further, save, and then go about my day. Back to the combat. Both Yuito and Kasane use psychokinesis, which allows you to pick up random objects on the field, send them flying at your enemies, and then rush in for devastating follow-up attacks with your weapons. Psychokinesis enables you to perform unique damaging attacks that will lower the crush gauge and the enemy's HP. From bulldozers to light poles, there's always something new to use to deal with the looming threat of the others. The combat even goes deeper with Scarlet Nexus Struggle Arms system, or SAS for short. With SAS, you can tap into the psionic abilities of your party members, allowing you to increase your damage output using electric or pyrokinesis, or do things like turn invisible. Each of the SAS abilities at your disposal are there for a reason, with the others you face having weaknesses that one of your party members can help with. Learning to mix and match your skills becomes part of the rhythm in battle. One of the tips that I would give players early on is to use the brain map, this game's leveling tree, to unlock the ability to use more than one SAS ability at once. Want to be invisible and have electric powers? Make sure and unlock that. Using the various SAS powers and their combinations makes you feel incredibly strong. And if you use these powers in the way that they are designed, you are incredibly strong. Mastering the SAS system is the key to efficiently defeating some of the more challenging enemies in the game. Unfortunately, the variety of monsters in the game is far slimmer than I would like. You will be seeing and defeating the same types of creatures over and over and over again, with very little variety. Once in a while, you're presented with a unique boss fight, but not often enough. With such a flashy and innovative combat system, it's a shame that you're fighting the same types of enemies over and over and over again. The best way to improve your SAS abilities and the synergy with other players is through the bond system, which I enjoyed maxing out for each of the characters in the game. As the story progresses, you will unlock both individual and team bond episodes that help you get to know each of your party members. I found this to be one of the most enjoyable parts of the game and one of the driving factors pushing me to play it through again with the other protagonists just to experience their bonds. Although there is some light flirting, someone looking for a romance system will have to try another game. These relationships are about friendship, camaraderie, and helping Yuito or Kasane come together with a greater understanding of each other and those who are in their platoon. I particularly enjoyed episodes with Gemma, one of the oldest members of Yuito's platoon. Their relationship started with very little in common, and Gemma was concerned about not being able to relate to young people as he grew older and older, trying to find common ground. Eventually, they really enjoy hanging out because they found a few similar interests. Rivals become friendlier, relationships grow more substantial, and mysterious paths are uncovered through the bond system. Each of the characters you bond with further also provides more benefits in battle. I found Scarlet Nexus to be a challenging game to review, particularly when it comes to the story. Because even though it truly doesn't matter if you choose Yuito or Kasane to play as, I don't actually think it warrants a second playthrough as the other character after you're finished. The game is designed for you to play it twice, but I don't really think it's needed. There are no limitations in the game based upon who you choose. You just don't see the other protagonist's perspective. Also, all the bonding you do with your teammates comes from the perspective of either Yuito or Kasane, not both. I feel like the best way to wrap up the review is to share with you what I believe are the pros and cons of doing just one playthrough versus two. They want you to play through the game twice, but I'm just not confident enough that a payoff will happen if you play the game twice, which is a shame. So here are the pros. 1, you get to fully experience both stories in each of the individual story arcs that push the main story forward. 2, New Game Plus makes the second playthrough much faster. 3, you'll need to play through both perspectives to unlock the Platinum Trophy on PlayStation or unlock all 1,000 available gamerscore on Xbox. The cons, well, enemy variety type really gets stale at the end of one playthrough. Really stale. Playing through the game a second time would only make that worse. The way the game's designed is that you see most of the story. You're going to be spoiled on all of the big parts of the other protagonist's story arc. You just won't see them happen. Combat, although fantastic, really is not that different between Yuito and Kasane. If they both played extremely different, I could see it being more beneficial to play it twice. Now, don't get me wrong. Scarlet Nexus is a great JRPG by a talented studio, but it certainly has a few flaws that are difficult to overlook. While I understand what they're going for with the dual protagonists, it did not click with me as much as I would have liked. The story is fun and interesting with several unique twists, but I wish there were an option to flip back and forth between Yuito and Kasane to experience it more fully. Or maybe perhaps, and this would be another con, more environmental changes depending on who you are playing as. You really just don't feel compelled to play through the game twice. However, it's certainly worth a one-time playthrough, and you'll have a great time no matter if you pick Yuito or Kasane. I can't wait to see what they do with an inevitable sequel, because I think that this universe is well worth a continued investment. Do not sleep on Scarlet Nexus, it's a ton of fun. Thank you so much for watching. Would you mind subscribing to the channel? Leave a comment below letting me know which protagonist you plan to choose, and we'll see you again next time.